All right, we're going to go ahead and get started for today. We've got a lot to go over, so we want to make sure we have enough time. There's a welcome poll as everybody is joining. If you wouldn't mind filling that out, that would be great. And today for our Missouri Open Door workshop, we are going to be talking about self-advocacy. I am Angelina Alpert. I am a research assistant at UMKC Institute for Human Development. And for those of you who haven't been to a No Wrong Door open door workshop before, No Wrong Door is meant to transform the way people access services in the community, to support individuals and caregivers to make decisions on complete and accurate information about their options for anyone seeking long-term services and supports. We got a couple announcements for today. Power Up is coming up. That's Missouri Assistive Technologies Conference. It's going to be April 3rd and 4th. And I will go ahead and drop the registration link for that once I am done here. And that's going to be in Columbia. We also have our Charting the LifeCourse 7th annual showcase coming up. That's going to be May 2nd and 4th. And that's going to be fully in person this year in Kansas City. And I will also put the registration information for that in the chat. And both of the links have the registration as well as more information on both of these events. All right, a little bit for National Slam the Scam Day. March 9th was National Slam the Scam Day. Oops, skipped a slide. Slam the Scam Day is set by the Social Security Administration to raise awareness about scams and fraud. Recognizing the basic signs of a scam can help you avoid scams and fraud. So some of those main points are: scammers pretend to be from an agency or organization you know to gain your trust. Scammers say there's a problem or a prize. They also pressure you to act immediately and tell you to pay in a specific way. So Social Security and Medicare will never threaten, arrest, or legal action if someone does not immediately send money to resolve an overpayment. They won't promise to increase benefits or resolve identity theft issues for a fee or by moving money into a protected account. They won't require payment with a retail gift card, prepaid debit card, any type of cryptocurrency, wire transfer, internet currency, or by mailing cash. And they won't send texts, emails, or social media messages that contain personal information. So if you think that you are experiencing a Medicare scam, Missouri Claim will be able to help you find out if it is a scam or if it is really something for Medicare. And they can also answer any other questions that anyone has about Medicare, finding out if you're eligible, or any questions like that. And I will also put the link to their website in the chat as well. And now I'm going to pass it over to David Forbes for today, and he's going to talk to us about Charting the LifeCourse.
Awesome. Thank you, Angelina. Hello, everybody. It is great to be here. I am David Forbes, and I think that maybe there's even a introductory slide on the next one for me. Yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm David Forbes. I live in Springfield, Missouri. I have a traumatic brain injury from 2008, so I am a self-advocate. I worked as an advocacy specialist for the Missouri Division of Developmental Disabilities for about 8 years. And I actually see a lot of names in here that I recognize from my years working for the state. I'm currently a Charting the LifeCourse, No Wrong Door, and Person-Centered Planning Ambassador. I'm also a Charting the LifeCourse Ambassador Series Coach. And I currently mostly make my money as a consultant with the LifeCourse Nexus and individual and family supports at UMKC, IHD, UCEDD. It's a mouthful, I know. I was a recipient last year of the Charting the LifeCourse Champion 2022 for Innovations in Self-Advocacy Networks. And I was also a recipient of the Missouri Association of County Developmental Disability Services for MACDDS in the President's Award last year. It was a busy year, 2022 for me. So that's just a little bit about me. So a little bit about Charting the Life Course and our vision for people with disabilities and their families is we want individuals to achieve self-determination, interdependence, productivity, integration, and inclusion in all facets of life. That's the individual goals. And for family support goals, we want families to be supported in ways that maximize their capacity, strengths, and unique abilities to nurture, love, and support all of its members to achieve their goals. And a big part of this is just recognizing that individuals exist within a family system. Personally, my focus has always been more on the individual side of things with self-advocates in regards to Charting the Life Course. Next slide, please. So Charting the Life Course was created for people and families of all abilities and all ages. So it's not just for people with disabilities, it's for all people, to help explore life possibilities and discover what options are out there to be able to live that good life, to help problem solve and find solutions and identify what resources are out there, because there's a lot that we don't know about when we were first getting started, especially. To help plan for goals and develop action steps for now and for the future. That's a big part of Charting the Life Course, is looking at where you are now and where you want to be in the future, and kind of how to get there. And finally, to help advocate and navigate for vision, to really get towards that vision of a good life a person might have. Next slide, please. And so speaking of vision, one of my favorite parts of Charting the Life Course is the trajectory worksheet, and that's all about developing what your vision is, what you want in the future. And a big part of that is also determining what's your good life, what are the things that you want to see, but also what don't you want? What do you want to avoid? Because oftentimes we don't maybe think so much about that, but it can be really helpful for figuring out what we do want by determining what we don't. Next slide. So speaking of the trajectory is the path that we take towards our good life. With all the little stepping stones we have along the ways. You can really think about it like if you were to try to shoot a target with a Nerf gun, you won't be able to do that without vision. You need that to be able to hit the target. And so that's what the trajectory is. It's that path that dart takes to hit the target. I've always quite liked that comparison. Next slide. And so the steps that we take to help us get to the good life are all those good positive things that happen. You know, if we've received an award, or we had a job experience that was good, having a child if you're a parent, all those things are things that can propel you towards that good life that contains friends and family, a job that you love, fun things to do, independence, and all of those great things. At the same time, there's that trajectory towards things we don't want, which contains kind of those negative experiences, those stepping stones that we learn from, but we don't enjoy dealing with them. And if we're not careful, those can lead us more towards what we don't want in life. Next slide. So this is just an example of my trajectory. This is just kind of a generic one. People sometimes make trajectories that are focused on like a specific part of their life. But for me, like for my vision for what I want on this one is I want to be independent, because I had a lot of years where I wasn't as independent as I wanted to be financially and whatnot. I really want to publish my own fiction novels. It's a work in progress. I'll get there. I want to get an apartment or a house with my girlfriend. I've achieved that. Currently living with my fiance, actually, in a shared apartment. I want to have lots of creative outlets, because I get bored really easily. And if I don't have those outlets, then it's just not a good time for me. I want to stay physically active, because I've already noticed I'm my early 30s, and I've already noticed my body slowing down a bit. So I want to keep myself from falling apart. I want to have a corgi, and I really want to have a clean home. And so some of the stepping stones in my life along my trajectory that have really helped me achieve that is having a supportive family, saving up enough to buy my own car. Not having a car, I found, has made my ability to be independent way harder. Moving into my own apartment, so I wasn't having to live with a family member anymore. I had a seasonal job at Worlds of Fun that taught me so much. I never want to do it again, but I learned so much from that job. And I had moving into my own apartment in there twice. It was a big deal, apparently. Having an amazing girlfriend, or now fiance, getting medication for depression so that I wasn't, having to struggle so much. Just having that extra little boost. And running cross country races in high school. I'd never been athletic. I'm as mathematic as all get out. So you think that'd be a bad pick, but it really helped my self-confidence a lot. Things that I don't want in my life are to rely on other people, especially for money. Doesn't mean that I don't ask for help, but I want to be able to be, my first line of defense for things, if you would. I don't want to have to live with my parents. I'm sure a lot of us can probably agree with that. I don't want to be not listened to or not understood. I don't want to feel unfulfilled, and I don't want to live in a messy home, which I'll be honest, I struggle with that one. Sometimes I do have that aspect in my life. Some of the things that kind of led towards potentially what I don't want is a car accident back in 2008. I was hit by a car while I was in the crosswalk as a pedestrian, and I have a traumatic brain injury from that. And so that's, in a way, a positive stepping stone, because that's what really got me involved with LifeCourse and everything. So it, I can see some benefit from it, but in a lot of ways, it led towards not great things in my life. Having to leave college early, having bad job experiences with bad bosses and whatnot, having a couple of bad relationships kind of threw me for a loop. Unmanaged depression, which obviously I've resolved because I now have medication for that, and letting my home get too messy. So those are all just some of those stepping stones. And so a big benefit of the trajectory is that especially for self-advocates, is that it can help them not only see like, hey, I can say what I want for the future. It may not be achievable now, but I can still like say this is what I want. But it can also help them kind of see, well, here's the progress I've already made. Here's what I've already achieved. And then they can also take this whole tool, and they can take it to an ISP meeting, an IEP meeting, if they have a new staff supporting them, and to help that person understand who they are better as a person and how they can really give them the support that they need. Next slide, please. So we just talked about the trajectory. Another really valuable tool and concept in Charting the LifeCourse is the integrated support star. And so it's a way of mapping out these different supports a person has in their life in 5 different categories. With the first one being personal strengths and assets. So that's the person has any special skills or personal abilities that they have, their knowledge or life experience, their strengths, things they're good at or that others like and admire about them, their assets and personal belongings and resources. So that's the personal strengths and assets. There's relationships. And so that's where a person would list any family members they have to support them, or other people that are close to them that love and care about them, and vice versa. Friends they spend a lot of time with and do things together or have things in common with. And also acquaintances that come into frequent contact with them, but maybe they don't know them too well. Maybe that barista at Starbucks that they see, every other day because they're a caffeine addict. Maybe that's a person they would put in there because that person, they know them to a certain extent. Then there's technology. And so that's any personal technology anyone uses, assistive or adaptive technology with day-to-day tasks, or any environmental technology designed to help with or adapt surroundings. There's also community-based. So that's any places in the community that anyone could access. So parks, schools, churches, healthcare facilities, group or membership organizations like a gym or YMCA. And then any local services or public resources everyone uses, like if you live in a place that has a bus transit system. And then finally, there's the eligibility specific point of the star. And that's all the supports that are need-based services based on age, geography, income level, or employment status, as well as government paid services based on a disability or diagnosis, such as special education or Medicaid. So that's all the services that a person has to have something to qualify for. Next slide. Sorry, I don't know if that was just me that dropped, but I'm back either way. Yeah, this is just a kind of a generic star of mine from the past, not focused on any one thing. Sometimes when people use this tool, they might focus on developing or mapping out their supports they have for something specific, like for employment supports or for living in their home on their own. This one is just kind of a broad generic supports that I have. So for my personal strengths and assets, I wrote down writing and storytelling. I hope that's a strength of mine since I want to write some fiction novels someday. Having my car, because without that transportation, that asset of mine, I would struggle to get around. My apartment, because that gives me the freedom to live my life how I want. My creativity, my bicycle as a backup if the car's in the shop. I can still kind of get around, as well as I have some pretty strong problem solving skills, especially if I'm problem solving for someone else's problem and not my own. For supports, I have my parents. They've been really supportive in a lot of ways in my life, as well as my two siblings, my girlfriend, who is now fiance. I need to really go back and update this. I have my best friend that I've been friends with since we were roommates in college. And then I also listed my local people first members. And I have other relationships in my life that I could have put down here, but I reached a point where I decided, there's only so much space here. So I'm just going to focus on those most important supports. For technology, I usually wear a Fitbit, except for when the battery dies, which is pretty frequent. And that helps me just try to motivate myself to keep more active in my life. My cell phone, because if I couldn't access the calendar, my cell phone when I'm on the go to schedule an appointment or whatnot, or check emails, I would be lost. My microwave, because even though I'm trying to become a better cook, I still have to rely on nuking things pretty frequently to keep myself fed. My Kindle, because being able to access books easily to relax and reduce stress is really valuable to me. My glasses, because I can't see worth a darn without them. My computer, because hey, I wouldn't be on Zoom right now without my computer. So that's very important to me. And my alarm clock, because I'm a very stressed out person about being late to things. But I have a horrible concept of time. It's not a good mix. So I use that support of alarm clocks to make sure I'm not missing anything. As far as community-based supports, I listed my library. I haven't gone there as much since 2020 hit, but there was a time where I went there every day after work to write. And so the people there have to know me really well. Same for Price Chopper, because I lived right by one for a long time. And so people there, they knew me. And there were times that if I was a little down, they'd ask if I was okay, because I knew that was my normal behavior. Same for Wendy's. I mentioned I'm not a good cook, and there was a long time there where I went to Wendy's a lot, and I would go up to the drive-thru and they would just have my order ready because they knew what I wanted. My local gym, because one of my goals is to stay physically fit, and then local parks, because it's a great place to go out and get some exercise, get some fresh air. And then for eligibility specific, the only real eligibility specific support I've ever accessed is actually for Voc Rehab. And that helped me get my job at Worlds of Fun back in the day. And then it helped me get my job with the division, which is kind of what got me on my whole current career path. So there's a good point to be made with the fact that that point of the star is relatively empty, is that sometimes a person might not have much in one point of the star. And while we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, it's not the end of the world if maybe some areas have a bit more than others. That's pretty normal. But it can be helpful to kind of determine, hey, here's a place that I can really build things up. So one of the real benefits of the integrated support star, especially for self-advocates, is one, it can help them realize that they maybe have more going for them than they realize. They may not realize just how many people they have rooting for them in their life, or the technology they have at their disposal that could really help them get things done, as well as helping them maybe determine, okay, well, let's explore some more options here. And then also it can be really beneficial, especially like in like an ISP meeting or IEP meeting, just like the trajectory, to help them really figure out, well, okay, what supports are already in place that we don't need to replicate, or that maybe we could bring in to support this person. Next slide. And then finally, the last two I'm going to talk about is the goal attainment tool. And it is all about helping a person develop a goal, whether it be big or small, and then define what success looks like, at different levels, and develop the strategies they need that'll help them reach that goal, and figure out if there's any integrated supports that maybe can help them practice that strategy. So next slide, I have my example that I can kind of go in a bit more depth. So a long time ago, I made a goal attainment sheet for finishing a rough draft of a novel. I'm going to be perfectly honest, it didn't happen. Got busy with life and just wasn't able to. But I had my goal to finish my rough draft. And I was able to figure out that for me, like just a default baseline success was going to be writing at least 10 pages per week. And so for that particular week, if I wrote 10 pages, I would put down a little X where there were 3 stars, because I made it. If I wrote 15 pages or more in a week, well, I'd give myself 5 stars. If I maybe only had less than 5 pages per week, well, I didn't reach my goal, but I still did something. So that'd be 1 star. So it's a really useful way, one, for a person just to track like how well they're doing, keeping on task as time goes by. But some additional benefits is you can is there's a place on here to write down what successes you have, what's working for the goal. Like, so for me, setting alarms to remind me to write was really helpful back then, as well as having a dedicated writing space. It made it easier for me to focus, because I don't know about you guys, but if I sit down somewhere in my home and I try to focus on something, I get pulled in by Netflix or Facebook or what have you really easily. Whereas if I'm in somewhere that's like maybe out in public or just a pace that's dedicated to that one thing, I can focus. You can also list the barriers. So this is kind of similar to the trajectory on kind of, what you want and what you don't want as well, kind of mapping out those positive and negative things. And so for me, I had a barrier that I hadn't found a writing group that I really meshed with. So I wasn't able to build up those relationship supports for this goal further. And that sometimes I was too tired at 5 p.m. to focus on writing, because that was when I was able to go write. I would get off work and I would drive to the library and I would write. And finally, at the bottom of this sheet, you can also figure out what strategies that might help you reach your goal. So for mine, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I said I'm going to spend 1 hour writing at 8 p.m. So I was going to, even if I was tired and I just went straight home afterwards, I would still at least get 1 hour in 3 days a week. And so I went to my integrated support star and I looked at my supports and I said, okay, alarm clocks, those keep me on track. So I'm going to set reoccurring alarms to remind me to write. And I'll also ask my best friend to help keep me accountable. So I was using the technology point of the star and the relationships points of the star. And then I had a start date and a targeted end date to have that strategy going. I also had a strategy of setting up a dedicated writing spot in my home. And the supports that I kind of figured out there was that, maybe in the community, I could use some local thrift stores for some furniture and decor to really, make it a comfortable space. And that at the time, my girlfriend could maybe help me with my setup because she was a bit more organized than I was. And once again, I had a start date and an end target date for that figured out. And then my final strategy was that I would find and join a writer's group, which obviously, because of the barrier of not finding what I meshed with, didn't work out too well. But for supports, I looked at the community point of the star and I was like, I can use the libraries and maybe a local college to find a local group, as well as using Facebook to find an online group, using that technology point of the star with social media. And so this goal attainment sheet can be really beneficial because, one, it helps the self-advocate determine the goal. It helps them track how well they're doing. And if things aren't going well, they can, look at what's not working well and try to figure out a strategy to work around it. But also see the successes, because it's really important to celebrate those and to know what we're doing well in our lives. And then as well as just developing all those strategies and being able to look back at the supports that can really help them reach that goal. Next slide, please. All right, so that's all I have to talk about as far as those different tools and how they'd be beneficial. And I'm going to talk about just a few of the things that a person can get involved with. So one of the things that we launched not too long ago was Charting My LifeCourse. So Charting My LifeCourse is an online training series geared towards self-advocates, and it assists them to explore their hopes and dreams, develop their plans, and advocate at formal planning meetings that'll help achieve their good life. So it's an online, self-paced training, so they can take a couple of days, they could take a month, they could take a year, however long they need to be able to get through this. They can do it at that pace. They're interactive training modules for individuals with disabilities and their supporters. And there's 3 points to it. There's discovering Charting the LifeCourse. And so that ends up going through the trajectory, as well as what we call the one-page description. There's discovering the support star, and that's all about the integrated support star and supports. Thank you, Angelina just put the link to that in chat. And then finally, there's discovering your good life, and that's focused around the goal attainment sheet as well. It is free for anyone to access and use. And it was created as a partnership between the Division of Developmental Disabilities and UMKC IHD and the LifeCourse Nexus. Next slide, please. So there's something that a self-advocate has said about Charting the Life Course, I think is a really good highlight of just how great this can be for self-advocates. Oops. Thank you. So I led my first ISP ever fully. I've been a part of my ISP in the past, but this was a game changer. I've come to realize some goals I didn't need to keep, as well as some goals I needed to make a priority. I get so excited at the thought of an individual like myself getting to experience running their own ISP and or running their life. You can use Charting the Life Course for so much in life. You can use it to budget for a car, vacation, for dreams, and what you want your life to be like. You can use it anywhere and for anything. It takes the work out of working out the nicks in life and takes your dreams, however big or small, and brings them to reality. I think other self-advocates will benefit not just from actually being in charge of their ISP, but it will give anyone a hope that they can achieve their goals, even if it means going from a full guardianship to partial, or if someone wanted to buy a car or move. If you name it, Charting the Life Course can make it come to life. And so I've always loved that quote a lot. That's from Susan Parker, who was actually our StarTAC fellow from 2022 to 2023. And she did some work with us on Charting My Life Course and making a facilitator's guide for it. So that was cool. Next slide. I'll go to the next one. That's not really pertinent. So another thing that we've gotten started is what we call our COOL group. It stands for Charting Our Own Life Course. And so the COOL group is for self-advocates who have completed, and their supporters who have completed Charting My Life Course and are using the framework in their own lives, and they want to support other self-advocates to be able to do so. So we're an interactive peer learning group that allows for hands-on learning, trying new things, and looking for new ways to use Charting the Life Course. And so COOL members really focus on developing and piloting training materials and creating a professional development path for self-advocate leaders in Charting the Life Course. So meetings are the first Wednesday of each month from 11 to 12:30. And the information on joining and all of that is sent to graduates of Charting My Life Course upon completion of the course. And we've had some really cool things already come out of that. One of our members is actually creating a training on a good life book, basically taking these different concepts of Charting the Life Course and making it almost into a scrapbook format. And so that's been really cool to see that coming together. Next slide. There's also some options statewide for self-advocates to get involved with Charting My Life Course, or Charting the Life Course as a whole, rather. I apologize. So as far as the Ambassadors Self-Advocate Network, I believe we currently have 6 self-advocates who have become Charting the Life Course ambassadors. And it says one self-advocate leader trained as a Charting the Life Course ambassador. I think it's supposed to say coach, in which case it refers to me. Not trying to brag or anything. And some ways to get involved are, of course, take Charting My Life Course, that online series. You can also host a Charting My Life Course series at your organization, because we have developed a facilitator's guide and a PowerPoint with embedded videos from the online training that can be run in person. And also it can be used side by side as learning with individuals and their families or direct support professionals, so that they're both learning at the same time as the individual is supported. Next slide. I think this is just a repeat slide. I apologize. Also, and if individuals want to get involved, there also are various Charting the Life Course chapters across the state. I believe some of those are good life groups, and there might be some others that are called different things. But if you go to lifecoursetools.com and you go to networks and then chapters in Missouri, you can find information on all of the existing chapters in the region. And if there isn't one in your area, I'm sure it's completely possible to look into getting one started. Next slide. I think, is this going into the technology side of things, Angelina? I don't recall this slide.
Yes, this is mine.
Okay, so that's me then. And I don't know if we have time for any questions, if anyone has any or not. But thank you so much for your time.
All right, and if anybody does have questions and they want to ask now, this is a great time to ask while the questions are fresh in your mind. I'll give a couple minutes, and I just want to say thank you to David for all that great information. Really shows how robust the Charting the Life course is, in my opinion. I loved you sharing your trajectory, and then both the good and the negative, the things you want to avoid. I think that is a tool that a lot of people don't think about. And I also really liked you sharing the star with your strengths. Just, when people put down on paper, this is what I've got in my pocket. I think those are really strong. Let's see if I didn't know if there. Looks like people are just saying thanks. I don't see any questions. So I'll go ahead and kind of get moving on my stuff. So when we're looking at self-advocacy with around AT, a lot of that really starts in my mind around self-determination skills. And so self-determination is just defined as the attitudes and abilities required to be the primary causal agent in your life, to make your own choices free from other people's decision about what your life should look like. And so when you have that ability, then you could be self-determined. And also folks who use AT, they that have self-determination can use those same skills about their assistive technology. They can help decide what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what other functions they might need in their assistive technology. All right, let's go on to the next slide. I've just listed a couple of factors. So to have independent usage of your AT requires some skills. And so we break those skills that are needed into 4 categories. Just basic operational skills. Do I know how to turn it off and on? Do I know how to charge my device? Am I fully aware of how to use my assistive technology, whether that's a wheelchair or a communication device or anything in between? I actually love, David, that your microwave went into your technology component, because like you said, is something that helps you, reach your goals, build your good life. Wouldn't necessarily be categorized as assistive technology in our minds, but I love that. Sorry, I'll keep going. The functional skills of your devices. So do you know how to use your device in the way it is intended? How it helps you with your task. So you've got an iPad for communication. Do you actually use it for communication? Or is using it for social media? So those functional skills of using that device. And then we also list strategic skills. So do I know when to use my device and when not to use my device? There are certain times and places that your AT may not be effective or useful. And do you know how to determine when and where those are? And then the social skills of using a device. Do I understand if I have a device that is reading out loud to me, do I know when to put in headphones so that I'm not disturbing a group that's around me? Do I understand how to drive my wheelchair in a group and not cause any injury? Chad is saying training is really important. What else? Right, and so a lot of folks have gotten equipment and didn't get any or good enough training, and it becomes a paperweight. Yeah, so really having those functional skills of using the device for what it is meant for, and we'll go into some of those other factors that go into that. Next slide. All right. And so when we talk about self-determination, it often gets put in with with transition, because times when you're transitioning from one set of circumstances in your life to another, is the transition time. And a lot of transition tools are really based on the transition from high school to what is next for an individual. So we're going to look at these, and some of them, like I say, are kind of based around that transition from school, but they can be used for basically any type of transition. So the factors we look at are, do we have a good description of the current technology you're using? Are you aware? Do you understand the ins and outs? Do you have a statement of what is required, where you're going? So what is the next environment? Are you going into a job, and do we know what you're going to be doing and how your AT will be used there? And then we have to look at transfer of equipment. So if we go back to that school-based transition time, if the school owns the equipment, do you get to take that with you? If your transition is from one job to another, if you got technology at your job, they own it. Are you leaving that behind or taking that with you? Is there a plan for that? And then again, kind of like Chad pointed out, who are the key personnel involved in any training that would need to take place, accessing funding, providing ongoing support? Do you have those pieces put in place? And then how you're going to maintain your assistive technology, also a very important factor. If you depend on it for life or work, and it breaks down, where are you left? So we need to make sure that we have that plan for maintaining. All right, let's move on. So with this, there are some tools that can really assist with your AT usage and your personal knowledge, because that's what we're trying to build, is your personal knowledge about what works and what doesn't work. So this is kind of small, but it is an assistive technology transition worksheet for students. Again, this is where the tools are geared. So there's 4 sections. The first one is just list the assistive technology that's helped you in your environment, but only include the ones that have been useful. So you might have 3 things, but if 2 of them aren't useful and you're not using and you don't like, why are we listing them? So number 2 is, what are the features that are most important? So if you're using a device in one, let's just say job environment, but there's more features and functions that you're not using than you are. So let's look at, maybe we can scale back and get something simpler the next job, or might be the reverse. The device might be helping, but you might need more features for the next job. So we want to kind of list out what is being used. And then section 3 is, how do we use this device? I can use it without help. I can use it with a little bit of help, or I might need a lot of assistance using my device. Okay. And then it's always good, section 4 is, how long have you been using this device? Is it something that's tried and true, or is it brand spanking new to you? So we just get a picture of that technology for the person. And this is just one tool. I've got a couple more on the next slides. Yep, here's an information guide. And so this is just part of this guide that is for self-determination and AT management. And you can see it's got a list of skills on the left. And then across the top, we're looking at, how do I use this? Can I ever do this? Do I do this with assistance? Do I do this independently? And so we can go through this list of skills, or a person or their team can go through this list of skills and really see, where where am I on this list? Do I know how to request new apps on my device? Can I determine when I'm ready for something different? Do I have other supports for backup? And these can also be, well, I think the next one is a goal management, but you can, drop some of the skills if they want to be something that you have on your trajectory towards your good life, to develop these skills. I think the next slide is our goal setting. So to work towards your good life, often you have a goal. And so to be able to talk about disability as needed, including your assistive technology, can be very helpful to goal setting. And here are some skills that can kind of help build those goals. So as an adult, you might want to be able to tell people about yourself and your disability. You want to be able to identify things that assist you, as well as being able to ask for help when you need it. And then where are you on that setup and operation of independent use of your AT? And then another group of things you might want to know is know about your legal rights, know where information about your assistive technology is kept, and also the services that are available, who funded or who may fund in the future your assistive technology. Where do you go? Again, where do you go for assistance with more training or just different support for your devices? What happens when it breaks down? Do you have a backup plan? And where do you find that? And where do you get your assistive technology repaired? So those are great things to think about when you're goal setting and using those trajectories towards your good life. And then next we have your one of the options for keeping all your information about assistive technology kind of contained is you could make a portfolio. So you could have a portfolio for different devices, different portfolios, or you could have one that has all your assistive technology information in there. And it might contain some of these sections. You could have a section about yourself, which may include, various information that might be your, personal demographics. It might be some doctors or therapists that have helped you get your assistive technology. It might be some support staff and their contact information. Really depends on what you think you might need in there. You might have documentation about disability or about evaluations that you've had or various things that those can be in your portfolio. And then you would have information about your assistive technology, whether you have a little or a lot. This might be the place you keep all the information or copies of it, or just some basic facts. And a great section to have is information on your emergency backup plan. So if your technology works really well most of the time, you might forget, like, where do I do? What have I used in the past as a backup? Or where do I go, for somebody to help me when it does break down? And so having that all written down so that you and potentially, anybody that supports you all have that same information in kind of a grab and go location that, everybody can update as needed, but you can really have that just available at your fingertips. And then, of course, resources. We all love to have our resources available. They can drop out of our minds. So having them printed and in your portfolio can be super helpful. All right. Oh, and so where might you find these great things that I've just shown you? Well, here are our resources. So the National Parent Center on Transition and Employment, PACER, is a useful site that you can get a lot of information. And the Student Transition Portfolio, it is a Wisconsin-based site, and they are working with WADI, which you may have heard us talk about here in the past, but really good tools. And I think most of the tools are actually from the student transition portfolio. There's a really robust website. All right. And then of course there are our programs. So I wasn't sure how much time I was going to have. I told David he could have all the time he wanted. But when we're thinking about how do we effectively become self-advocates and use our own AT, well, a couple of the programs that could be really helpful are our ETC, our lending library. So that is our device loan program. And if you are using some assistive technology, but think, I think I need something more robust or something different, or, want to try out different equipment, our lending library, as well as local demonstration centers, are places that you can go to get information about various devices and potentially borrow them and try them out on your own. Or maybe with your team to say, I really want to look at something different. So it's not always easy to get your hands on the next device. And so our lending library is a great resource. ATR is a reimbursement program. So if somebody's in school still, and it is specifically for school age folks. So that can, thank you, Kara. That can be a great resource to get some funding. And our TAP programs are our phone and computer access programs. I think they're phenomenal. You can find them on our website. It is for folks with limited access to a phone or computer, and we can help a lot of folks get equipment through there. We have financial loans. If it ends up that you need some assistive technology and you don't have a funding source for it, well, our loan program is a great way to fund assistive technology and potentially build your credit. So that is another great option. And our demonstration and reuse centers located here and around the state are great places, of course, to just get more information, see if there's something available that you might need in a reuse organization. So those are a brief overview of some of our programs. I don't want to linger here too long. I believe that is my last slide. Yeah, all right.
Okay, thank you so much, David and Scout, for presenting today. Just to wrap a couple of things up, a reminder that the slides and the recording of this will get sent out within the next couple of days. The recordings also all get posted to the Charting the LifeCourse YouTube channel, and there is a playlist on there called No Wrong Door Mods, and that'll take you to all of them. And just that these are free and open to anybody. So if there's anyone that you think would enjoy these, benefit from these, feel free to go ahead and forward them along the information or the recordings of them. And just this is our website to connect and learn more. It's LifeCourse Tools. And our next mod is going to be April 26th, same time, 12:30 to 1:30, and it's going to be on moving from inclusion to involvement, and we'll be talking about ways to destigmatize assistive technology and universal design for program development, among some other things. And I'm going to go ahead and send out a closing poll as we see if there are any other questions or comments for Scout or David from today. And their Scout's contact information is there, and my email is usually on all the emails that you get sent out with all the recordings and everything, if anybody has anything additional that they need.
Thanks everybody for joining, and thank you again, David.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.